So if you're thinking of buying a new build in Hamilton, Ontario, you might want to think twice. New builds look smart. They're clean, they're fresh, nobody's ever lived in them before, there's no weird smells baked into the carpet. But hidden under the granite and fresh paint is a financial trap that can wreck first-time home buyers. In this video, I'm going to break down why you could be potentially screwing yourself long-term if you buy a new build property in Hamilton without a plan. My name is Steve Lopresti. I'm a real estate agent, but let's be honest, you probably don't care, so let's just get right into the video. So the first reason is that you're competing with the builder when you buy one of these new builds as well. So the second you actually purchase it, the builder becomes your biggest competitor when you go to resell that home later on. So let's say you buy the house, you live in it for a few years, and then you decide that you want to sell it. The builder is still there in that location, building newer units, still selling them, and still trying to get more buyers through to buy their units instead of yours. They're selling newer, shinier versions of your same floor plan with usually better upgrades, better closing incentives at better rates. So how do you actually compete with that? You probably don't. You just lower your price until you end up giving it away. So the next thing is the delays. If you think you're moving this summer, think again. New build buyers have seen it all, from permit delays, weather delays, crews behind schedule, back-ordered appliances, the list goes on. Meanwhile, your interest rate lock expires and the rent that you're paying increases. You're stuck in that situation while the builder just shrugs. And it's not just about the inconvenience that it's going to cause you, it's also about the cost, and every delay can be potentially thousands of dollars in temporary housing costs, storage fees, and this emotional and financial toll adds up pretty quickly. Another thing to keep in mind is that investors are also buying these units. It's not just other families. A lot of these buyers coming from Toronto just because it's a lot cheaper to buy here in Hamilton than there, and then they're now trying to offload them, which means there's all these new listings hitting the market at the same time. And what that does is that drops the value of these units. If you go to try and sell yourself, you're competing with 10 other listings that are selling the exact same thing as you. Now, these investors, if they're not selling, that means they're renting out, which means that neighborhood is going to be filled with tenants, not necessarily other owners. And the entire community just becomes a revolving door of for sale signs and changeover in tenancies. From 2021 to 2023, we saw a massive surge in the amount of investors buying new builds in Stony Creek and Binbrook. And many of these properties are still sitting vacant or hitting the resale market. So that constant churn just sends your property's value down the drain, and it turns your neighborhood into a flip zone. So when you're seeing one of these new builds being advertised, you probably see things like starting at $699,000. So that's a nice hook to get you interested and to get you in the door, but it doesn't actually get you all that much. That's just their base pricing. So you'll see basic flooring, basic finishes, no finished basement, no deck. And if you want that version that you saw in the builder's showroom, you're usually gonna have to shell out another $50,000 to $100,000. And don't forget about the HST that you pay on top of that with a new build. Now, most people try to buy a new build because they think it's gonna be cheaper and save them some money. But in this scenario, you're now 6 figures over your budget. Plus, some builders will tie you into exclusive contracts with certain service providers. So you wanna keep that in mind as well. The next reason for why buying a new build might not be the best for you is that when you're buying a new build, you're buying the hype. You're not necessarily buying the value. A big part of buying a new build is that fresh, nobody's lived here feeling, but when you go to sell it later on, that's gone. So your once new home is now just another listing on the market. It's got the same floor plan, it's got the same square footage, maybe a little bit more wear and tear. And like I said before, the builder is still building in that area. They're selling newer units with the same floor plan, same square footage, without the wear and tear that you just put on it after living in it. It comes down to supply and demand at the end of the day. Buyers don't care what you paid for the house, they care about what's on the market. So if the builder nearby is selling the same thing with better perks and newer, they're going to skip yours in a heartbeat. So Hamilton's market has been cooling off over the last couple of years, but the builders haven't stopped building, which means there's still more inventory on the market. If you didn't see my last market update, how could you? Here's a quick breakdown for you. Home sales are down 29.1% year over year. Inventory is up 39.5%, which is a lot of competition if you're trying to resell your home. And the average sale price is down by 4.8%. So homes aren't flying off the shelves anymore, but builders are still out there building. Buy now, and in 2 years, you could be stuck competing with unsold inventory and falling prices. In places like Binbrook and Waterdown, nonstop building means bloated supply and brutal resale leverage. So not every area where there's a new build is a trap, but here are a few just to keep an eye out for. So Binbrook, Mount Hope, Upper Stony Creek, and certain areas of Waterdown have seen a lot of new builds and a lot of investor activity. These are the places where you're more likely to compete with the builder and 10 identical homes if you try to sell within a few years. Now, established neighborhoods, on the other hand, have much more stability. Whenever there's any sort of market correction, it tends to hit the more speculative areas first. Homes in more mature communities tend to hold their value a little bit better. Their value is tied to lifestyle and location rather than construction height. Think of it kind of like the difference between buying like a brand new Toyota. It loses most of its value the second you drive it off the lot. Whereas if you buy like a nice classic Mustang, it still maintains its value over the years. I'm not a car guy, so if that makes no sense, then I don't know, just don't hurt me. So what you're actually getting in more established areas like Crown Point, Westdale, Rosedale, or Delta, you're actually getting real character, deep roots, mature trees, that's not a pun, finished basements, bigger lots, and neighbors who stick around. You're not paying inflated premiums for brand new drywall. You're buying into a neighborhood that has history, walkability, and long-term value. And if you do end up wanting to sell, you're not in a 30 house bidding war. Now look, I'm not saying to never buy a new build. It can make sense in certain scenarios. If you're planning to be there for the next 7 to 10 plus years, you've got the cash cushion, you're cool with delays, and you've budgeted for the upgrades, then it can make sense. You lock in a design you love on a house with everything that's nice and clean and modern and never before been lived in. And if you're not planning on selling that anytime soon, you're insulated from those short-term price swings. But don't treat it like it's a flip project, because that's when the numbers stop making sense and that's when you start losing money. So whatever you do decide to do, you want to make sure that you make your move before the window closes, because this is one of the best buyer's markets we've seen in at least the last few years, perhaps even the last decade. Whether you're buying resale or a new build, the time to do it is now. Like I mentioned before, there's tons of inventory on the market. There's so many houses to choose from. And we don't know when the market will flip back to the craziness we saw during COVID when houses were selling in 3 minutes with 27 offers. That was not a good time to be a buyer. Today, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. It's easy, fast, and it's yours for the taking. The best part is you don't have to do this alone. I'm here to help you out. So whether you know exactly what you want, whether it's resale or a new build, or you're still in the early stages, reach out to me today for a free consultation and we'll walk you through that process and we'll figure out what you actually need to do in order to get the house that you love. And if you're interested, you can also reach out to me for my free first-time home buyer survival guide. It'll just walk you through the entire process of buying a home, start to finish. Just send me a message and I'll send that right over to you. All right, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this, and I'll see you in the next one.